any good tags out there? No? Well, I started off and I drew a Barbary sheep in New Mexico, and that kind of started off at the high for me. So I'm super excited to get down there and do that. That's a rifle tag. I'm usually an archery hunter, but I can't help and pass down an opportunity to go after something that I've never went after. Last year I went down there and my buddy drew an archery tag, and I didn't know how hard that hunt was going to be until I got down there. I was like, ain't no way we getting up there or down there. And I guess we shook hands with the wrong people on the way down or touched the wrong thing, and we both ended up with COVID. He got it first, and I don't know what strand it was, but it had me with the pounding headache. Every bump on the road had me about as sick as a dog. But I will say, he got it first, so I didn't get it until halfway into it, and I got to enjoy the hunt a little bit. And he said, man, we're gonna go check out this one spot. He's been down there before. And we drove up and we parked the truck. He said, it's an overlook that overlooks this, and it drops down, way down in there. And I get over there and I'm like, gee, I ain't looking down over there. And sure enough, we looked down there and it was a big ram that was down, right down, 190 yards, but straight down. So you couldn't go and get to him right away. So I said, well, how are we gonna get down there? He said, well, there's a cut down there. So we get over there on this cut and we're gonna sneak down there. And then remind you, this is all archery. I said, I think if we can get down there, we can get on this guy. So sure enough, I filmed this. As we're about to go down there, I said, this is a suicide mission, guys. If y'all don't see me anymore, just look at the video. It was straight down, like slate rock, sliding and stuff. We get down there and that ram moved from where he was closer to us. So then we had to sit and pause for a second, but we ended up, that ram sat there for about 45 minutes and then went back over to where he was. And he was just bedding during that daytime. And we went down, dove down, dropped packs, got in on him 35 yards. I wasn't shooting, he was shooting, so end story wasn't good. It wasn't good. It was a bad shot. We got up. I was leading him like a little guide I was. Leading him, I said, here, you get up in front, knock an arrow. And he gets in there, and sure enough, I said, there he is. So we duck, and he said, how far? I guessed. I said, 40. Can't be more than 40. I'm pretty good out to about 60 yards. After that, it starts falling off. So I ranged him. He's 35 yards. I said, 35, 35. The sheep gets up, the ram gets up, and he swings in, and he punches that trigger, and that arrow hit him high and back. It wasn't a fatal shot. It was high and back. We trailed that ram for hours, and then he dove off with some deep stuff, but it wasn't good blood or nothing. We just spot here, spot here, spot here. But I seen the arrow, but some tough country, super tough country. It looks like Mars out there.
Would you do it again?
That's why I'm going. But I'm going with a rifle, so I could reach out and touch him a little ways. 190, right? Yeah, 190. I would have. Yep, set up, boom, done deal. Well, we're gonna start. I just thought I'd share that story with you guys. We're gonna start. I'm gonna do a little intro, and let me bring up my little list. Take a glance at it real quick, so I don't miss anything, because I try to stay prepared and stay on track, but I can't promise you that I'm not gonna go down lots of rabbit holes, because I do love to tell stories. And then as I'm showing you what I'm doing, I'm gonna probably give you a story to go along with it. So if you like stories, you'll love this. If you like elk hunting, you'll love this. If you don't, then you don't have to be here. But I promise you, you'll love everything about it. One thing I do want to cover before I go any further, there's an elk calling competition right after this. If you haven't signed up, please do so. It's fun. It really is. And I promise you, the nerves that you feel when you're in the elk woods and you're calling up that elk and he gets closer and closer and he's screaming at you, It's the same nerves that you'll feel when you're on stage and everybody's looking at you as you call. But I promise you, it goes away after a while, right? Same as that elk coming in. So right after this, we'll have an elk calling competition. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go over basic cow and calf sounds, because let's be truthful. Basic sounds are gonna win year in and year out. Basic sounds. Now, if you want to get into a little bit more advanced calls, I do other seminars throughout the state, and I cover advanced calls too, but that can add another hour on to the seminar. But since we only have an hour, I'm only going to cover the basic sounds. So basic cow and calf sounds. I'm going to go down some rabbit holes. I wrote that down, by the way. Basic bull sounds, location bugles. I'm going to also go over grunts and chuckles and what they mean, what I think they mean, and then some of these sounds and what I think they mean too as well. So my name is Jermaine Hodge. I'm originally from North Carolina. I moved out here in 2005. I'm still in the Army, 18 and a half years. Next year be 19, so you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drop that retirement paperwork on them. But, so I started elk hunting in 2006. I missed the draw in 2005, but I've always been a big hunter, but never really got to go elk hunting until I moved out here. So from 2006, I started venturing out to the elk woods. I killed my first bull in 2006, and it hasn't stopped since. I've killed a bull every year, year in and year out. And I've been successful because of practice. Practicing my calls. I've always been in shape. I've been a part of the World Class Athlete program. I was a competitive Greco-Roman wrestler on the Olympic stage and on the world stage level. And being in shape wasn't a problem for me, right? So now I'm one of the coaches. I don't wrestle anymore. I'm too old for that. Now I'm one of the coaches, so I do get out there and roll around with them, so I do stay in shape. That's my exercise. Some people like to go in and lift weights. I just get on the mat, because if you're in wrestling shape, you're in any shape. I promise you that. So basic calls, elk calls, is how I won a 2019 world title on stage. I competed here locally in Colorado Springs area, and I won that competition. And then I liked it so much, I went on to compete a little bit more. And then I went to Salt Lake City, Utah, competed at a regional competition, a lot stiffer competition. I wanted to see where I was compared to them. And then I got my butt whooped. I think I finished like 14th out of 32 competitors. I was like, woo, I need to practice some more. And so I went to about a month or two of just practicing all of the advanced calls, all the basic sounds, and cleaning everything up. And then in 2019, I went to Park City, stepped on the world stage for the first time, and they called me the bracket buster, because I was just going through great callers, and there's a head-up competition, and there's one-on-one, and they draw calls out of a hat, and you just got to do the best you can. It's subjective, and you got people out there that's judging you, but it is awesome to compete. So I got crowned the title in 2019, and I fell in love with it since. This is my son, by the way. His name is Jermaine Hodge, and I promise you, when he throws out a few calls, don't get embarrassed. He is pretty good, but he's been doing it at a young age. He's 12 years old this year, so he's going to get to hunt with me for his first time. So he's going to have some fun out there, too, with me. All right, basic sounds, basic elk sounds. So I'm going to use a story in mind when I'm telling you this, because it really means something to me, right? So, calf sounds. When a calf is sounding off, it's like a kid in a car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Like, shut up, right? And then they also, mom, dad. They always do that. So in the elk woods, you're going to find that you hear more calf sounds than you hear anything. More calf sounds. If there's calves around, let me be careful here. If there's calves around. And if there's cows, there's usually calves. Now, your calf can range depending on when that calf was born. It could be very small calf, or that calf could be almost as big as mom. That's the truth. So if it's an early season birth, that calf, by the time season comes up, September, October, or whenever your season is, that calf could be as big as mom, but just doesn't sound as mature. So when I'm doing that sound, I try to put a little bit of motion into it, but it doesn't have to be a very, very big, deep, raspy sound. So it sounds like this. And it's just that baby saying, Mom, Dad, Mom, are we there yet? Are we there yet? They don't stop, all right? Rabbit hole, I told y'all I'm gonna go down these rabbit holes. I was with my wife, and we knew there were some bulls in here, so we basically rode down this road, parked, and I had seen some bulls go in this area not too long ago, a couple days ago, and I said, well, let's just check this. It's not too far from camp, let's just check it. Her legs were beat down, we went in there, and sure enough, bull erupts, and here comes this baby. And I said, watch. I heard it from a distance. I said, watch. So I start throwing out the same sounds. And what does a kid want to do when they see another kid? They want to play. So lo and behold, I told my wife, I said, watch. I hit that calf sound on them. That calf comes running, runs right past me, goes right past, or my wife is in front of me, goes right past me, and I said, watch, I'm gonna call him back. And when I call her back, her or him, I don't know if it was a bull or cow, because it was actually really young bull. Let me cut my volume down for somebody calls me and interrupts me while I'm having story time. And I said, when I called that calf back, that calf runs directly to my wife. Gets so close to my wife, she starts leaning back, like, ooh. Touches my wife on the elbow, nose. My wife goes like this, the calf jumps back. It was a great story, and I didn't catch it on film. I wish I would have caught it on film, because everybody would have probably thinking he's lying. It really ain't. So when you're out in the woods and you hear that calf sound, all you gotta do is throw some subtle, soft sounds to that calf, and you'll bring that calf in, because a kid wants to play with another kid. It is a fact. Unless that kid is a strange kid, he's gonna wanna play. He or she's gonna wanna play, right? So what happens when you bring that calf in? You end up bringing mom with them. And when you bring mom with them, Big Daddy wants to come too. Right? Because it's breeding season, especially during that September month in early October, it's breeding season. So most of the time when you're throwing that calf sound out, you bring that calf, you bring that cow, and then you'll bring that bull right behind them. All right? So once again, soft, subtle sounds. It doesn't have to be super aggressive. There's a lot of calls out there you can do them with. For example, that's the black amp from Phelps. And then you have the orange amp, which is really like latex, and it sounds like this. Don't forget to throw those sounds in different directions too, because then it sounds like multiple kids. Oh, they got a park going on over there. Look at the swings. I'm going, right? So the kids are going to come. All right, let's go into how do I make this sound? I like to start off teaching people how to use these sounds. If you're not familiar with a diaphragm, who can use a diaphragm in here? Raise your hand. Okay, so we got a few that can't. That's perfectly fine. So when I was teaching my son, I tried to teach him like this, but he's listened to it so much and he just picks it up. But I try to tell people, I say, when you put this diaphragm in your mouth, you want this tape. This is called the tape. You want that tape to be seated to the top of your mouth. If it falls from the top of your mouth, it's not seated right, or it may be too big for you. If it's overlapping on your teeth, it's too big for you. So if it's overlapping on your teeth, the calling companies out there, Phelps, for example, makes a mini amp, and it fits for deeper palate plates that just can't get these feet seated. But if they don't, I take and trim with some scissors about 1/8 of an inch all the way around it. And I do this one rip at a time until it seats. Sometimes it doesn't seat, it doesn't even seat then. And what I tell people to do is take and make a V cut on both sides, where the latex kind of bends in a little like area like that. It'll kind of bend like that. And then see if that seats and that works for you. Little bitty triangles at first before you do that. Once they get seated in the top of your mouth, they should stay on the top of your mouth. It should stay up there as I'm making my sounds. Now, we got it seated in our mouth. We're familiar with it. Some of the calls, manufacturers have a dome on there. This is a metal dome. Some of them have plastic domes. So the outline of it, you have a latex that's squeezed into this dome, and then you have the tape, right? Now, once you get it seated into your mouth and it's fit properly, I tell people how to make this sound. I just want to make a mosquito sound. And it doesn't have to be clean. You just want to make a sound. So it's... If you can make that, we're starting to get progress. We're starting to get progress. Now, to clean it up, remember this. As I make a mosquito sound, I drop it off. If I could do that, now I start cleaning it up. And these are just baby steps to get into that calf and that cow sound, right? So to get those sounds, mosquito sounds at first, drop it off. Now, let's go back to the calf and the cow sound, right? A cow sound is a little bit more mature and they elongate it a little bit. A calf is like a half of a cow sound. It's more of a Remember those kids playing with each other, right? Now a cow sound, she sounds a little bit more mature. She can be 1, 2, 3 years old. She sounds a little bit more seasoned, I should say, right? So she sounds like this. And you can hear the difference between that and that calf, right? So now that we got our calf sound and we got our cow sound, we start calf and cow communication. And the reason why I like doing this, especially in the woods, is I want to sound like multiple elk, especially if you're a solo hunter. I was a solo hunter for years. I still am occasionally, but I love hunting with buddies. So I take out buddies and show them how I do it, cut the learning curve down for them, and then next thing you know, we hunting buddies for the rest of our life. We stuck together by the hip. So I teach them how to call so they can call something in for me too as well. But when you're by yourself, you want to sound like multiple elk. That's why I swing that sound in different directions. Because to the ear, it sounds like, wow, he's over there. Oh no, they over there. Wow, it's lots of them. And that's what you're trying to do when you're mimicking a herd. And I say a herd could be many different sizes. It could be a herd of 5, it could be a herd of 200. Different sizes. But I can promise you, when they all start sounding off, you're going to hear multiple elk. You may not see them, but you know that it's multiple elk. So I try to incorporate that calf and that cow communication into scenarios, especially like mid-month into the late month of September. And it sounds like this. Now I sound like maybe mom and baby, or maybe 2 babies and mom. And then don't be scared to amplify your cow sounds. Your cow sounds through your tubes. I promise you, you'll hear this out there. If you hear that mature cow sound, it sounds a lot deeper and a lot raspier, right? So once again, cow and calf communication, but I'm also going to use the tube to amplify and maybe sound like a different cow too as well. Now I'm adding in a little bit of emotion into that call. Remember everything that you do when you're calling in elk, add some emotion into that call. It helps dramatically. And we'll talk about more of that when we get into some of our bull sounds. All right, real quick story about calf and cow communication. I told you I was going to dive down some rabbit holes. I'm a storyteller and I love telling this story. It was 2007. It was my second season in the woods. And I was a beginner. And I used a lot of different calls out there on the market. And I was using Primo's Hyperlip. So back then, I knew how to use a diaphragm to call cows in or use it for cow sounds, but I didn't know how to use it as for bugling. So I used the Primo's Terminator back in the day, and it has a built-in reed system. Some of y'all familiar with it. It pops on the top, and you can make some really good location bugles with it. This is the easy bugle for some of y'all that don't know how to use diaphragms. This is a good one too. All you gotta do is I use the bottom reed down here and use my lip as pressure. This could be a very loud call, get them to sound off, and then I would move in. So quick story. I had the Primo's Terminator. I had a lanyard of all kinds of calls. I thought I was a duck caller, but I was an elk caller. I had calls everywhere. I'd walk through the woods, clink, 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 everywhere. I'm holding them, trying to keep quiet. Anyways, I bugled down this canyon. Well, let me back up. I ran into this muzzleloader hunter in that area, and he was telling me lies. At least I thought they were lies. He said, man, we ran into about a 380 bull. At that point, I was like, a 380 bull? Ain't no way. I've never seen one. At that time, I've never seen a 380 bull. It can't be a 380 bull in here. Well, I left. It was getting late in the evening. I left and went back to camp, and I was at camp by myself. Fire going, eating a little food, and I'm like, having a couple drinks. I said, man, maybe that guy wasn't lying. I said, something kept telling me, you might want to check that out. So I said, I got up early in the morning. I ain't have no plans that day. I got up early in the morning. I jetted off in there. I got in there before anybody can get in there. I had the red light on. I started hiking through the woods. I want to get up as high as possible because what do elk do? They move up. But I just wanted to get up high because I knew we had a lot of moonlight that night. So I knew they'd be already heading up. So I get up there and I'm bumping elk as I'm going in there. I could hear them crashing through the woods. I said, man, I'm killing myself here. So I get to this point and it's daylight. And I bugle down into this little drainage, little valley, little drainage. It's got some water down at the bottom. Nothing. I said, well, made some cow sounds. Nothing. I moved 500 yards to the left, side hilling. And I'm going to go back into this big bowl area where it bowls off. And I moved 500 yards, and I'm by this big old pine tree. And I literally broke out that hyperlip from Primo's. And I said, boom. What sounded off? The calf. The calf sounded off. She came in, she sounded off. So what did I do? I tried to mimic that sound. What the kids want to do? They want to play. So she sounded off, I sounded off, and out from the back, this nasty bull erupts. I said, oh my God. Boom, boom, boom. I get on my knees, and if you archery hunt, I practice from every position. So I'm on my knees, I'm waiting. Make a few more sounds. What comes up? The calf comes up. I said this before. Kids want to play with kids. Calf comes up. She brings mom. Mom brings the other 3 cows with her. And I should have knew, but I wasn't a seasoned hunter. I didn't know who was going to pull the rear. Well, they're 10 yards from me, about from me and you. This calf is looking dead at me. The cows come up looking dead at me, and I hear him coming through the woods. Crack! He's bending his head, he's coming through the woods. I said, oh my God, this is that 380 bull that they were talking about. And they say, don't look at antlers. I couldn't help it. He was a huge 7x7. Big, huge. Was he 380? He was close enough. So he's behind him, he's licking his lips. I said, oh man, I can't draw my bow. I didn't draw my bow ahead of time. So they pegged me. I said, well, let me see if I could just, sneak this back a little bit. I sneaked this back a little bit. Those cows peg me. Boom, they take off. They come back right where they come back from. What does he do? He follows. Boom, gets stuck between 2 aspens. He's stuck at 40 yards, and I could see him. I could have easily made that 40-yard shot, but I was so mesmerized by what was going on. I was like, holy smokes, no one's gonna believe this. No one's gonna believe this. And you know, 2007, that's when flip phones, I had a flip phone back in the day. You weren't filming that with no flip phone. And if you did, it's gonna be some crappy footage anyways. So, well, anyways, I didn't have to do too much. All I did was calf sounds and cow sounds. And believe it or not, I said this at the very beginning, basic sounds are going to kill elk every year. And the calf is going to get the big bull killed every year. Remember that. It's embedded in your head. I use a lot of calf sounds mid to late season. Early season, I use a lot of bull sounds. Mid-season, I mix it up. Late in the season, a lot more cow and calf sounds than I do bull sounds. But I use them all throughout the whole season. Don't get me wrong. We had a hunt last year in November, and my son was with me. I had a late season cow tag. It was fourth season cow tag. I had some permission on some land, and we moved in, and he wanted to call so bad. And I said, well, stop the truck. Let's get out and call. And I had left my bugle tubes. I brought my reeds with me, but I left my bugle tube. He brought his. He gets out, does his little thing. And I said, well, give me that. Grab that tube. I rip off one, and bam, one rips back immediately. I said, oh, smokes. I didn't think it was possible. They do call all year long. So don't get that wrong. So that was November. It was Thanksgiving, actually. We was having Thanksgiving in the hotel, so I know what it is. November 25th, I think, it was Thanksgiving. They were calling, believe it or not. And listen, and that unit got a lot of pressure too, so I know that you can get them to call in certain units. And don't get me wrong, certain areas get a lot more pressure than other areas, so they may shut up and not be as vocal. But if you get into that zone, you can get them to be vocal.
Can you ask questions as you go?
You can ask questions as you go.
As far as that goes with the sound, if you're in an area that a lot of pressure, they're not making noise, do you still go through as you're moving through, calling out cows and calves to try to mask your own sound, or how would you play that?
Well, I've been into a couple units that were hunted heavily, and what usually happens is everybody in this room, we'll just use everybody in this room. Everybody in this room thinks they're pretty good elk callers. And then you get out there and then you're like, Jesus, I don't sound as good as I do. Or you have a few standouts that are really good callers and a few that aren't as good. The bigger bulls, they have knowledge. They've been in these woods a long time, and they know what good sounds and quality sounds sound like. And then they also know what Doug Flutie sounds like. And I'll give you that story later. And so when I'm in a heavily pressured area, and I see, let's say we park at the trailhead and we see 10 trucks there. I know out of those 10 people, at least one in each vehicle, maybe multiple, at least 8 of them out of the 10 are, and those bulls get used to that, and they get pressured, right? They'll have wind and stuff, and so they start hitting different drainages, so they'll move over. I use that to my advantage. If they're there, I move into a different area. Now, what do I do when they don't say nothing? Move into the zone. I keep covering ground until I get one to answer, because you're out there chasing ghosts, and they could be ghosts. So I get into the zone. I'll give you a quick story on this one. 10 trucks parked at the trailhead. Drainage over. One drainage over. Everybody's on this one hillside. I just took a drainage over, took a trail, walked in 3 miles, and then I started covering ground. And lo and behold, boom, you get them to pipe off. And then, I mean, that zone, what I'm talking about, I'm talking about, it might be 300 yards, it might be 100 yards. But when you get in there, all you need him to do is make one sound. Now, depending on the time of the season, does he have cows, or did he give up his location? Maybe it's a rifle tag. He just gave up his location. So I'm gonna use the wind in my advantage. I'm gonna move in as close as I can before I make another sound. I'm gonna move in, and I'm gonna get a little closer until it either pisses him off or he's intrigued. Maybe he's a herd bull and he's got cows, and I pull off a satellite bull. But You might have to get into that zone and get a little closer to that elk before they sound off. All right, let me not get down to too many rabbit holes because I will. So a cow sounds like this. All I'm doing is elongating that sound. Elongate the sound. Sounds like this without the tube. I elongate that sound and drop it off. Now remember, no bull is going to sound off like, whoo. They ain't doing that. You hear that? You hear duck competitions, and they, ain't no duck doing that, but they do it on stage. All right, nonetheless. So you don't have to be super long with your bugles. Just try to keep it, a lengthy amount of time, but not too long, right? And then drop it off at the end. And remember what I said, emotion, adding emotion into your calls. At the very end, I add a little growl into that. And that's just coming from my gut. Sound a little deeper. You can go into your raghorn bulls. Maybe you're in an area where you're getting a lot of callers, right? And them big bulls are smart. If you sound like a smaller bull sometimes, you'll pull that big bull in because he's been pressured by other people adding too much emotion in their call, right? So elongate that cow sound, drop it off at the end. Your basic bull sound is a location bugle, It is one of the first things that you do when you're out there trying to locate a bull. And all I'm doing and all I'm saying is, hey, where are you? And then hopefully, maybe a ridge over or maybe close to you. I'm over here. And he says that back to you. So all I'm doing is humanizing it, right? All I'm doing is humanizing it. All right, so here it is through the tube. Remember that emotion I was talking to at the end? You don't have to get too crazy deep. Maybe you just drop it off a little bit. But remember this, they don't drag off, they drop off their sound, all right? And all I'm saying is, hey, where you at? I want him to give up his location. Remember, we're humans and they're animals and they're trying to survive. They're trying to survive. Now, you might get that answer where he pipes off, he locates, and he chuckles. That bull's hot. That bull's hot. I probably won't make another sound until I get closer to him in that zone, and then I'll pipe off again, right? Because we get so fixated on making him talk that you're forgetting the objective of the whole thing. It's a game of chess. I'm sneaking in to take the king out, right? So if I keep going, as I'm going through the woods, he knows I'm coming. And maybe he don't want me beside him. Maybe he don't want me near him. So I throw off this location bugle. He pipes back. I move toward his direction using the wind in my favor. Move in his direction. If he sounds off, he doesn't, I'm covering ground. So he pipes off. I move in his location. I'm listening too, guys. I'm listening to my surroundings. Because I might hear that's an indication that he's got cows with him. My approach might be a little different. Now, let's go back to this location bugle and my Doug Flutie story. So, I'm in this area with my wife last year, and she only has 4 days to hunt, and we're going to grind it out. It's been quite a few years since she's been out in the woods, but she is a great shot. She outshoots me any day. So we get in this area, and we nickname this area Serena's Hill. That's my wife's name. She's killed a 340 satellite bull back in this area, so we nicknamed it Serena's Hill. And it's back in this drainage. It's about 1.5 miles from the hardball. You go back in here and you dive back into some meadows. The bulls absolutely love it. It's water back there. It's a south-facing slope. It's lots of aspens in there, but it's also green, and they just love coming back in there. And they'll go back into the hard stuff, bed, and then they'll come back in here. Well, we get over to this hill, and it's still dark. She can't see the pins on her bow, but I throw out a location bugle. Location bugle. Listen. I wait a few minutes. Boom, to my left, on the same level as me, this little bull sounds off. Further back, past him, Doug Flutie sounds off. Another bull down in the drainage that we're going to go to sounds off. So I got 3 different bulls, at least 2 bulls. I thought that other one was Doug Flutie. And I thought I'd been out in the woods long enough to know what elk sound like. But I could promise you, they will fool you sometimes. They will fool you. So we moved to the edge. We was out stuck in the middle, but it was dark. I said, let's move to the edge of this wood line. Let's wait till you can see your pins. When you can see your pins, I'll start making some more noises, and we'll see what happens. Well, the bull to my left shuts up. The bull that's further down shuts up. But this Doug Flutie bull, he's trying to get me riled up. And I said, man, that's a human. No doubt. He just keeps going and keeps going. I'm like, I said, babe, I don't know how he got there. We was the only one parked there on the trailhead. I said, he must have parked way away from us, walked in the dark to get in here. And that's possible, but it would have taken him a couple hours to get to us. So I said, man, and everything's running through my head. I'm like, I said, this is what we're going to do. I said, watch. When I chuckle, he's going to chuckle. So I chuckled, and he chuckled. I said, Jesus, this has got to be the worst hunter ever. I said, all right. I dived down this hill. We both dived down this hill. I said, we got to get in this area where this bigger bull sounded off. We dived down this hill, and we're cresting up. And it took us a little bit to get down there. And when we get to this other meadow, we get into this other meadow, and there's a strip of like a little island of woods that are in the middle of this meadow. And when I get to this meadow, that bull sounds off again, but he's closer. At that point, I knew that wasn't no human, because there was a lot of deadfall that human would have had to get to us, and we were way in front of that bull. So I said, damn, this is a bull. He is the nastiest sounding bull, but he is a bull. And so I set my wife up. She gets right there. I back off, and I throw another bugle down the hill. Boom. He rips back. And I see his legs. I said, oh. I said, he's either going to come this way or this way. So my wife was probably from me to the TVs. I said, he's either this way or this way. I don't know which way he's going to come. He starts swinging up wide, and then he comes down low. When I see him, he is a huge 6x on one side with wales probably like this, and a nasty 3-point on the other side. I think he had an eye guard. He skipped and went and had a dagger. Dude, I was like, I would kill this bull any day. He's the coolest looking bull. And I seen my wife come to full draw, and God bless her soul, I didn't see her range anything. I said, well, he's close enough. I said, he's got to be within 30. So I stopped this bull just with a simple cow sound. Remember that, guys. When you can use diaphragms, even just, I'm going to explain this later, like a bark sound. Even if you just, whoo, they stop and they look. Just bark at him. Woo! He'll stop and look, right? But I had the diaphragm in my mouth. I just, so he stops and looks. He's trying to figure out where the cow is. My wife pulls back, sends the arrow. She gets 40, right over his back. I seen the arrow. I was like, I threw my hands up. I said, that's hunting. That's hunting. I walked to her. She said, why you throw your hands up? I said, you gotta imagine this. I don't have a tag. I've been taking out all these buddies of mine, and I have called in lots of bulls, but it's been lots of failures. But it's not due to the fact that they're not great hunters. They just don't spend a lot of time in the elk woods and knowing situational stuff, right? So she sends the arrow over him, and he is a huge 6x3. If he had both sides, he's a 360 bull. He only had one big side and the other side, and he's high 290s maybe, but he was pushing close to 300 with just what he had. He was huge. So back to the story of don't underestimate a sound. If you hear a sound and you think it's a bull, close the distance, use the wind in your favor, and make sure and verify, right? Because if I run up to you in the woods and, hey, we wave each other down, I'm like, I'm going that way. Which way you going? All right, so we don't bump into each other, right? But never underestimate those sounds in the woods, because I promise you, they can sound some crazy, crazy sounds. I heard one that sounded like a moo-moo cow. No chuckles, he just, never got eyes on him. We nicknamed him the Dragon. Never got eyes on him. Heard him 3 years in a row. And he was with other elk because we had elk in front of us. So he was just pulling the rear and never got to lay eyes on him, but he was a weird sounding cow. He sounded like a big moo-moo bull. I was like, oh, the cow. So they do make some different sounds out there. All right. So back to what I was saying, elongate that cow sound, drop it off at the end, just to get you familiar with it again, without the tube. Through the tube, amplifies it. Add a little bit of motion into it, sounds like a bigger bull, right? Now, remember what I said. I'm just saying, hey, where you at? And he says, hey, I'm over here. Don't make another sound. I move into the location. Now, I'm listening as I go, and I don't hear any cow sounds. So the next sound I'm going to pull on them is I'm going to locate, small location bugle, and I'm going to add that chuckle. I'm ready to fight. That's what I'm telling them. I'm ready to fight. So when we talk about chuckles, before we go into that location and chuckle, when we talk about chuckles, I'm taking a cow sound and I chop it in half and I build a cadence out of it, right? So it sounds like this. Cow sound, chop that cow sound in half. Now remember, sometimes it fades off, sometimes it drops off. Each bull is a little different. The cow sounds are different, right? So through the tube, it sounds like this. And all I'm doing is telling that bull, I'm ready to fight. Now remember, I located, I moved in. I think I'm fairly close to that 150 mark. I don't hear any cow sounds. Maybe I heard a tree snap or something. I know he's close. And I hit him with this. He sounds off and you will hear his attitude change. He went from, hey, I'm over here to, I didn't tell you to come over here. I'm ready to fight. So he gets you back and he hits you back maybe with a chuckle, right? Now, another call that I use is just a simple growl. A simple growl. And basically what I'm doing is I'm asking him, where are you? I'm over here, but where are you? So I've moved in, I located, hey, where you at? He said, hey, I'm over here. I didn't make another sound. And I know I'm close, but I want him to sound off again. So it might sound like this. It's called a contact bugle. I'm trying to find out where you at. Lo and behold, it works 99% of the time. So instead of getting crazy with it and hitting them with a chuckle, I move in, I do a contact bugle. And all I'm doing is waving that sound out a little bit. Sounds like this without the tube. And I'm adding a little bit of motion into that call. Contact bugle, folks. When I do that, you will hear him. His attitude will change. I don't recognize you. You stand your ground. I don't need you over here. If he hits you back with that chuckle immediately or that growl, sounds like this. You know he's ready to fight. His temperature went from here to here. You know that bull's ready to fight. Now, Scenario. You locate, he sounds off, you move in. You hit him with that contact bugle. He sounds off again. But this time, he adds that grunt into it. And that grunt is just like the chuckle, but it's elongated. Sounds like this. That's a different tone. To me, and I might ruffle some feathers. Every time I hear that sound, and it's a difference, I'm gonna do it one more time. Chuckles. Grunts. Two different things. Every time I hear that sound, he's got cows with him. He has cows with him. 99% of the time, I promise you, if you hear that elongated sound, he has cows with him. So, scenario again. We locate it. Hey, where you at? He locates back. We move in. Sure enough, you give him the contact bugle. He follows back with this. I know he has cows. Now my approach is going to be a little different. What I like to do in that situation, depending on how far I think he is, if he's a little further than 150 to 200 yards, I sneak in using my wind indicator, making sure the wind's in my favor because I think he has cows. I'll sneak in as close as I can get, and I hit him with the loudest, meanest, I'm ready to go. See if he's going to challenge back. Two things are going to happen. He's either going to come to your area, check you out, push you off, or he's going to round his cows up, not say a damn thing, and move out, right? But you have to take a chance sometimes to get a herd bull with cows like that to come in. Now, other scenario, I move in, and maybe I hit him with, the kids want to play. Remember, I'm hearing the cows, or maybe I think he has cows, so I hit him with some soft calf sounds. And I'm listening. If you hear that calf sound off, you know you are in the money. Be ready. Remember my story with the 7x7? He's following the rear all the time. So if I could bring one calf's going to bring a cow, and it's probably going to bring that big herd bull.
Are you more likely to choose one over the other based on the amount of cover that you have?
Yes. I mean, if it's wide open, then I got to back off, and depending on if, let's say he's in the meadow, then my chances of calling him off those cows are going to be very slim. I'm going to really pay attention to what he's doing, where he's going to move to. And then if I can get to where he is without getting blown going through that meadow, then I'm going to try to get a little closer to that herd other than trying to pull him to the wood line when he could look over there and see nobody, right? Remember, when you call in a bull, especially when you're solo hunting, when you call in a bull, let's say you got him to locate, boom. You call in a bull, he knows exactly where that sound is. He will come to a certain point, which is the hang-up spot. Now, you have to know, if I got him bugling and I'm solo hunting, throw that sound behind you so he thinks it's further, right? Now, to answer your question, in that situation, meadow, I wouldn't even chance it. I'd kind of be quiet, watch them. If they go into some thicker cover, I can get to them, then I'm going to play that. If it's lightly covered and they can see for a long ways, I'm not even going to play that situation. We're primarily talking about some thicker tree areas And that's the scenario I'm kind of painting for you.
Okay, thank you.
When you're doing the calf calls and the cow calls, you're throwing it in there and everything, you're throwing them out there really quickly. Do you pause between any of them, or you're just spitting them out and then stop? How does that play?
Yeah. So remember, I said this earlier. A calf, they don't shut up. The sound you're gonna hear the most in the woods, if they're around, is calf and cow sounds. Calf and cow sounds. Now, there's other calls out there, and I said I wouldn't go into it, but I'll just explain this one little thing. There's estrus buzzes, estrus scream, whatever you want to call it. How many in the woods have you heard an estrus scream? I've only heard it twice, and I've been hunting a long time. I've seen it on videos multiple times. I've only heard it twice. So your most common sound that you're going to hear is calf and cow sounds. Now, my calf scenario, I build that to, hey, Mom, come on, Mom, I'm ready to go, Mom, I'm ready to go. And then she answers 1 or 2 times, right? Stop. Listen. Because you'll get to going, and then next thing you know, he snuck up on you, and you over here, in the way, right? Yeah. And he's like, look at this fool. This happened to me. I get carried away, and then I'm like, he's sitting back here looking at me. Or one of the satellite bulls come around, they sneak in, they looking to steal a cow, and they sneak in quietly. They could be quiet out there. They really can. So I'm painting a scenario and a picture for that bull to kind of throw in his mind, because we're trying to fool him, right? All right. So when I'm in that particular moment, I lost track of where I was going with this. When I'm in that particular moment and I moved into that thicker cover, calf sounds are going to bring the other calves 99% of the time. I can't tell you 100 because I can't paint every picture for you, but I could tell you 99% of the time, if there's a calf with him, that calf is coming. And then he is going to follow. He's going to follow the cow that follows that calf. Remember, trying to keep up with your kids in the mall, and your kids want to go everywhere, and you're like, stay on my side. And then they get out there too far, and then you start going like this, right? That's the picture I'm painting for you guys. That happens in the woods, just humanizing it, right? So when you move into that bull and you think you heard them grunt sounds, it's probably got cows. I move in, I could scream at him, or I heard cows and I give them that calf sound. Quiet, listen. You'll hear him erupt. His attitude changes big time. And then calf starts coming in, cow starts coming in, and boom, be ready. Be ready. Don't be like me. Be ready. Solo hunters especially. Now, if I got a hunting partner with me, you got to communicate with your hunting partner. The more you hunt with your partner, and the better it gets. The better the hunting relationship gets, whether you're just by a campfire, shooting the shit, having a beer or two, or you teaching him what you know and he's teaching you what you know, right? Now he's calling for you. You can move in closer. He could be a little bit further back, and you are in that zone where he's going to come up to that hang-up spot. You already there, the hang-up spot. He don't even know you there. He just knows that he wants to get to where you are so he could visually look. Because once he gets to where you are, he can't see anything back there, he's gone. He's like, I ain't playing with him. I'm going to go over here and hang out with the cows I do have, right? So hunting with a partner, by all means, is, especially when you're calling in September, is a lot better than hunting solo. But if you're a solo hunter, believe me, years of it. It's tough, but you can get it done just by simply maybe blowing that call away from you and then moving a few feet ahead of where you called before you make your next call, right? So I'm taking that temperature. So he sounded all solo hunting, and I move in a little closer and I wait and I'm taking that temperature. What's he doing? Am I listening? Is he coming? Because if he's coming, he's going to come a little closer to you to peg out that spot where he might have heard that sound. Elk are very good at pegging where that sound comes from. They are very good at where that sound comes from. Okay, so location bugle into chuckle, location bugle into grunts, super basic easy. I say basic easy. Listen, if you know how to locate, you don't know how to use a reed, maybe I use the built-in reed systems. Boom, I locate. Then maybe I got an open reed. I'm really good at open reeds, but I can't use, or I have a gag reflex and can't use a diaphragm. There's other calls out there that are really good with that. Phelps makes a stellar one, and it's called the Easy Sucker. It's got a built-in reed, and all you do is bite down just a little bit and inhale, and it sounds very similar to cow and calf sounds. So maybe I don't know how to use a reed. I use a built-in reed system. I locate. He sounds off. I move into his location, and then I hit him with the Easy Sucker or one of these open reeds, right? He comes in. You're gonna kill more elk with basic sounds, but you're gonna kill big bulls with more advanced sounds. Now, I said I wouldn't do this, but I am gonna do this because you said something earlier that kind of sparked off, right? And I'll give you this, I'll paint this, we were talking about estrus buzzes and estrus screams, right? It sounds like this, guys. That cow is in heat and she wants to be checked. And I said this, you don't hear this a lot in the woods. So I'm gonna give you a story. First time I ever heard it. I had my wife with me, and we went into this, I located these elk in this particular area. It was only 1 or 2 bulls in there. I didn't know that it was gonna be a massive herd the next day that I was in there. So she only had 4 days to hunt in this particular area. So we went into this area where I heard 2 bulls, and I said, all right, cool. We packed very light. We didn't pack no rain gear, and it got messy quick. So we moved in, took this little road that was closed off, walked up, I locate, boom. It's elk everywhere, everywhere. They were screaming going nuts. So it started raining, sleeting, and then next thing you know, it started wet snow. And we didn't have no rain gear on us. I promise you, we were getting wet. And at that point, into the hunt, I kept pushing my wife. She was the only one with the tag, and I kept pushing her. She's getting soaking when it's cold. And we get into this area where we didn't say much. My wife said, why ain't you calling? I said, it don't matter what I say. Watch. They didn't care what I said because there was so many elk sounding off. So when I moved in, I got 5 more minutes. When I moved in, we got really close to the herd, and that's when we heard our estrus scream or our estrus buzz for the first time. And I'm gonna tell you what happened. That cow was sitting about 30 yards from us. This bull comes in, circles, screams, goes over and checks her. She was ready to be checked. He checked her. You ain't ready. You keep moving on me. And then he moves on to the herd. He wasn't a bull that we was trying to kill because there were some bigger bulls in that area. We seen 2 fights that day in that herd, and 2 bulls that were about 380 and 2 other bulls that were about 360, and they were nuts in there. I didn't know it was the best but the worst day because I got to the point where we got onto about a 330 bull. My wife came to full draw and she was shaking because she was so cold and wet. I said, let down. I said, we got to go. I said, if we didn't leave then, I would probably been carrying my wife out of there. Luckily, we got to that point, and we was about 2.5 miles from the truck, and I said, we got to go. I got to get you dry before you get hypothermia really quick. And I was cold, but I wasn't as cold as she was. So lesson learned, always keep that rain gear in your pack. I don't go without it no more. But back to, let's recap real quick. Calf sounds. Cow sounds, a little bit more mature. You can use your tube to magnify that sound. If you hear that sound out there, I promise you that's a mature cow. I don't know how old she is, but she's mature. All right? Then you get your location bugle. Drop it off at the end, maybe add a little motion to it. If you want to sound like a raghorn, you might pick up one of these smaller tubes that, not these, some of the other smaller tubes, and it sounds like a raghorn. You don't always have to sound like a big bull to bring in big bulls. Okay, location bugle to a chuckle. Remember what that chuckle is? He's ready to fight. He's ready to fight. He's hot, ready to fight. Promise you, when you hear that sound, that bull is hot and he's going to want to fight. And chance of calling that bull in are really high. All right, that location bugle to that grunt. Remember, my thoughts, and I've seen it, is they have cows with them. Excuse me. It's elongated chuckles. That's all it is. The cadence is stepped out a little further. That chuckle is back and forth. And all I'm doing is chopping that cow sound in half. Boom, 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 boom. Dropping my tongue. Drop my tongue off the car. And then make a cadence out of it. Last thing I want to talk about is barks. Bark is a simple call, and everybody thinks it's the end of the world. It really ain't the end of the world. And I'm going to tell you how to remedy this. So you get out there in the woods and you hear. It ain't the end of the day. Promise you. It's either they seen something move and they don't know what it is, and they're alerting everybody, right? They're alerting everybody around them. Hey, watch out, I seen something. Or they smelled you, and most of the time when they smell you, they're gone anyways, right? So if you get them to bark and you're within that zone, just bark back. Bark back. And all the bark is the cow sound with a little bit of motion. That's all I'm doing with it. Now, sometimes I like to add a bark into a chuckle. Calm that bull down. I promise you that bull will stare and he will chuckle right back. Now I calmed him down. Really, I want to calm him down enough that if there's a herd around him, they don't just blow out of there. Now, back to where I was saying, woo! You want to stop him, right? If you don't have a diaphragm in, just yo! Just yo at him. Yo! He'll stop and be like, boop. It's done. Done deal. Done deal. So if you don't have a diaphragm in, you can stop him. But I ain't going to take up all the show. Before I end this, I'm going to have my son go ahead and rip a bugle, give him a little glory time. And then I'll take any questions, and then I'm going to let them move on to the next class. And then I don't know where we're going to do the elk calling competition yet. But if you do want to compete in that, then we'll get directions from out there. Go ahead, rip a bugle. Hey, you know what I want to talk about? A little bit more advanced calls, lip balls. And all it is I'm buzzing my lips. So I'm going to have my son do a location bugle lip ball. Go ahead. So that lip ball, you hear mature bulls with that sound. A mature bull will blow that lip ball. That's a big bull. Most of the time, that's a big, nasty growler. And all it is you buzz your lips, you keep that cow sound, you just buzz your lips. And you add that sound into the cow sound. Remember that elongated cow sound? That's all it is. All right, that's it, guys. I know I got to move on, let these guys take over. And then, any questions?
Yeah, how do you know, you got multiple diaphragms up there. How do you know, do you use them all differently or?
No, you use them all the same. Now, I will tell you that some of the diaphragms are built a little differently. Like this orange one has a really light latex, more for your cow and calf sounds. As you get into the, more of your white and white amps and stuff. So I play with them all until I figure out the ones that I love the most. For me, it's the white amp and the Maverick in the woods. In the woods. I have these in my pack. If I want to get loud and growly, I blow this one. Good sounds, all around sounds. Because I don't bounce around from reed to reed for each sound, I use my white reeds for my cow sounds, calf sounds, and my bull sounds. So I could do them with both. Once you find that reed that you could do them sounds with all of them, then those are your reeds that you constantly have to have in your pack. And have multiple of them because you won't leave them hanging around somewhere.
What's the actual technique? What are you doing in your mouth?
All I'm doing is pushing my tongue against the latex. So I'm pushing my tongue against the latex, and the air just flows over that latex. Yep, that's how you clean it up. Really, like I told you, that mosquito sound, take that mosquito sound and just start sharpening. And air control is where I'm
Forcing all the air through the reed.
forcing all the air through the reed.
How hard do you put your tongue against it?
The harder you put your tongue against that, the sharper that sound's gonna get. So when you're doing those little bitty calf sounds, I push a little harder. When I'm doing those mature cow sounds, I lighten it up a little bit, but a little bit more air pressure.
The one I have, I always have a hard time getting it to fit, so I guess it doesn't fit properly.
It doesn't fit
when
properly.
When I do use it, it tickles my tongue.
If it tickles your tongue, move it back. Move it back. That means it's too far forward. You're getting that little
Tongue
tick.
or the reed? Or
The reed. The reed needs to go back further. Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys.